Quick question before we begin. What's the most unbelievable historical fact you've ever heard? Because in this video, I'm going to show you 7 real events that sound completely invented. And while you watch, I want you to choose the one that seems the most impossible. Then leave it in the comments at the end. Trust me, some of these are genuinely hard to believe. Let's start. Imagine someone calling you with an unbelievable offer. Would you like to buy the Eiffel Tower? In the 1920s, one of the boldest scams in history happened in Paris. A con man named Victor Lustig looked at the Eiffel Tower and saw something most people would never imagine. Not a monument, but a business opportunity. At the time, the tower required expensive maintenance, and some people still saw it as an ugly, temporary structure left over from the 1889 World's Fair. Lustig used that idea to create an incredible lie. He pretended to be a government official and secretly contacted scrap metal dealers. He told them the French government had decided to sell the Eiffel Tower for scrap. The deal had to be private, he claimed, because officials wanted to avoid public outrage. The story sounded just believable enough. One dealer accepted. Lustig took the money and disappeared. The victim was too embarrassed to report the scam, and that gave Lustig an even crazier idea. He tried to sell the Eiffel Tower again. That is what makes this fact so perfect for YouTube. One of the most famous landmarks on Earth was sold by a man who did not own it, did not represent the government, and had no right to make the deal. And he was bold enough to attempt it twice. Most scams involve fake products. This one involved pretending to sell Paris itself. In 1970, a dead whale washed up on a beach in Oregon. It was not a small problem. The whale was around 45 feet long. It weighed several tons, and it was already decomposing. The smell was becoming unbearable. People could not just leave it there. Someone had to remove it. But the question was simple. How do you get rid of a massive dead whale sitting on a public beach? At first, the answer seemed practical. Officials decided to use dynamite. The idea was that the explosion would break the whale into small pieces. Then, birds and other scavengers would clean up what was left. It sounded strange, but to the people in charge, it seemed like a fast solution. So they placed a large amount of dynamite near the whale. A crowd gathered. News cameras arrived. People stood at a distance, waiting to watch the problem disappear. Then, the explosives went off. And almost immediately, everyone realized the plan had gone horribly wrong. Instead of neatly removing the whale, the blast launched huge chunks of whale flesh into the air. Pieces of blubber flew across the beach. People began running. The smell spread even farther. And then came the part that made the story legendary. A large piece of whale landed on a parked car and crushed it. The explosion had not solved the problem. It had turned one dead whale into a raining disaster. Even worse, much of the whale was still there. The blast had scattered pieces everywhere, but the main carcass was not completely gone. So after all the noise, panic, and flying whale parts, workers still had to clean up the remains. The event became one of the strangest public mistakes ever caught on camera. It was supposed to be a simple cleanup job. Instead, it became a warning about what happens when humans underestimate nature, even after it is already dead. Today, the exploding whale is remembered not because it was dangerous in the usual way, but because it was absurd. A giant animal washed ashore. Officials tried to remove it with explosives, and in the end, the whale did not disappear. It fought back from beyond the grave. So yes, a dead whale was once blown up on a beach, and the result was not a clean solution. It was a shower of blubber, a crushed car, and one of the most unforgettable disasters in local history. In 1859, Earth was hit by one of the most powerful solar storms ever recorded. It became known as the Carrington event. At first, people saw something beautiful. Auroras appeared across the sky in places where northern lights were almost never seen. The night became so bright in some areas that people reportedly thought morning had arrived. But then, the beauty turned strange. Telegraph systems, the high-tech communication network of the time, began behaving wildly. Operators received electric shocks. Some machines sparked. In some offices, telegraph equipment even caught fire. The most unsettling part was that some telegraph lines continued working even after being disconnected from their normal power sources. The storm had filled the atmosphere and the wires with electrical energy. To people in the 1800s, it must have felt almost supernatural. Invisible force from the sun was moving through human technology. Today, this event feels even more frightening because our world depends on satellites, power grids, internet cables, navigation systems, and electronics. In 1859, the main thing affected was telegraph equipment. If something similar happened now, the damage could be far more serious. So yes, the sun once reached across space and made human machines spark, shock people, and run on electricity from the sky. The Soviet Union erupted in the streets when World War II ended. In May 1945, the Soviet Union finally heard the news it had been waiting for. Nazi Germany had surrendered. For millions of people, this was not just the end of a war, it was the end of years of fear, hunger, funerals, and destruction. The announcement reached Soviet citizens in the middle of the night, and people did not wait until morning. They went outside immediately. In Moscow and across the Soviet Union, streets began filling with people. Strangers hugged each other. Some cried. Some sang. Some laughed because they did not know what else to do. Others stood in silence, trying to understand that the nightmare was finally over. This was not a normal celebration. It was a release. The Soviet Union had paid an almost unimaginable price during the war, with more than 26 million people lost, according to official figures cited in historical summaries. Almost every family had been touched by death. Almost every city had felt the war in some way. So when victory was announced, the reaction was overwhelming. People flooded public squares. They gathered near government buildings. They walked through the streets through the night and into the next day. The celebration was emotional, chaotic, and completely spontaneous. No one had to organize it. No one had to tell people what to feel. They already knew. The war was over. The fear was over. The waiting was over. And that is why stories from that day became so legendary. Some later versions even claim that the celebrations were so intense that vodka supplies quickly ran out. That detail is often repeated, but it is better treated as a famous legend rather than a fully proven fact. What is not legendary is the emotion behind it. The Soviet people had survived one of the darkest chapters in modern history, and when they heard the words they had been waiting for, the streets turned into one massive wave of grief, relief, and victory. So the strongest version of this fact is not that the country ran out of vodka. The stronger truth is this: after years of devastation, an entire nation stepped into the streets because, for the first time in a long time, people could finally believe they might live to see tomorrow. July 1789. France was on the brink of revolution. Food prices were soaring, the monarchy was losing control, and rumors were spreading faster than facts. Outside Paris, most people had no idea what was really happening. They only knew that something was terribly wrong. Then the stories began. Across the countryside, villagers heard that armed gangs were marching toward them. Some believed the criminals had been hired by nobles to punish rebellious peasants. Others were convinced foreign mercenaries were coming to burn crops and starve the population. No one could prove the rumors, yet everyone believed them. Panic swept across France. Church bells rang, farmers grabbed rifles, axes, and pitchforks. Villages warned neighboring villages, which then warned the next. Within hours, entire regions were preparing for war against an enemy nobody had actually seen. Historians later called this wave of mass hysteria the Great Fear. One day, reports arrived that a large hostile force was approaching. Local militias rushed into position. Thousands prepared for battle. The enemy finally appeared on the horizon. Except it wasn't an army. It was a herd of cows. Dust clouds, fear, and confusion had transformed ordinary livestock into an invading force. By the time the mistake was discovered, huge numbers of people had already mobilized to defend their homes. As ridiculous as it sounds, similar false alarms were happening across the country. People mistook travelers for spies, shadows for armies, and rumors for facts. But the consequences were real. Convinced that nobles were plotting against them, peasants began attacking manor houses, destroying feudal records, and challenging the old social order. What started as fear of imaginary invaders quickly became a nationwide uprising. Incredibly, some of the most important events of the French Revolution were fueled not by real armies, but by rumors, panic, and, in one unforgettable case, a herd of completely innocent cows. October 1904. Russia was struggling in the Russo-Japanese War and desperately needed reinforcements in the Pacific. To help, the Russian Baltic Fleet was ordered to sail halfway around the world. But before it had even left Europe, it stumbled into one of the most bizarre incidents in military history. The sailors were on edge. Rumors of Japanese spies, surprise attacks, and hidden torpedo boats spread through the fleet. By the time the ships entered the North Sea, many crews were expecting an attack at any moment. Then came the night of October 21st. Near Dogger Bank, off the coast of Britain, Russian lookouts spotted several vessels through the fog. In reality, they were British fishing trawlers. But in the darkness, nervous sailors convinced themselves they were Japanese torpedo boats. Panic erupted. Searchlights swept across the water. Orders were shouted. Then the fleet opened fire. The fishermen were caught completely by surprise. Shells exploded around their boats, bullets tore through wooden hulls, and several vessels were badly damaged. Men were killed and wounded. But the situation became even more absurd. In the confusion, Russian warships started firing at each other. Some crews believed enemy boats had slipped between the ships. Others reported torpedoes in the water. One cruiser was hit by friendly fire, killing a sailor and a priest on board. Later, Russian officers claimed they had fought off multiple Japanese torpedo boats. There was just one problem. There were no Japanese warships anywhere near the North Sea. The entire battle had been triggered by fear, rumors, and mistaken identity. The consequences were serious. Britain was furious that its fishermen had been attacked. Newspapers demanded retaliation, and for several tense days, it looked as though Russia might spark a conflict with the British Empire while already fighting Japan. Only diplomacy prevented a major international crisis. The event became known as the Dogger Bank Incident. More than a century later, it remains one of history's strangest military blunders, a naval battle against an enemy that existed only in the imagination of frightened sailors. In 1977, audiences were watching the future on cinema screens. Spaceships, distant planets, laser battles, a galaxy far, far away. The original Star Wars had just arrived in theaters and was changing popular culture almost overnight. It felt modern. It felt futuristic. It felt like the beginning of a new era. But in France, that same year, something from a much older world was still happening. People were still being executed by guillotine. Not in the French Revolution, not in the 1800s. In 1977. The last person executed by guillotine in France was Hamida Jandoubi, who was put to death on September 10, 1977, in Marseille. That was only a few months after Star Wars opened in American theaters on May 25, 1977. And that is what makes this fact feel so surreal. In one part of the world, people were watching a movie that imagined interstellar empires and futuristic technology. In another, a real European country was still using a device associated with executions from the Age of Revolution. The guillotine feels ancient today. It feels like something from dusty history books. But it survived far longer than most people realize. France did not abolish the death penalty until 1981, 4 years after its final guillotine execution. So yes, when Star Wars was already showing people visions of the future, France was still using one of the most infamous execution machines of the past. It sounds like two different centuries collided, but they existed in the same year. 1977. History is stranger than fiction, because fiction has to make sense. If any of these left you wanting to go deeper, the sources are in the description, every one of them. And if you want more stories that sound impossible but aren't, you know what to do.